All right, hello everyone. This is Bud Ryer, and I will be doing my pop culture presentation. So, starting off, what we will look at. So, these are going to be some of the key perspectives you'll expect to see in the presentation below. First one's going to be culturalism. This is going to be discussed through Raymond Williams' theory and ideas presented, as well as we'll be looking at structuralism and Saussur's theory and argument towards that. And then psychoanalysis, we'll be looking at Freud and his ideas and arguments towards the psychoanalysis key perspective. So, moving on to culturalist, Raymond Williams. So he was considered one of the culturalists. And basically, he was an influential figure within the New Left and wider culture. He was a theorist, academic, a novelist, and a critic. He lived from 1921 to 1988. And he had a response and an argument towards Leibniz's idea. And Leibniz's idea was he believed that the bearers of culture had lost their social authority and that the remedy or the solution lay in the establishment of the culture police or a culture army, which would ensure that culture would be preserved and mandated. So he was saying that in order for a society or a culture to stay intact, to stay structural, it needs police to monitor it and create that authority that you can't be doing things that you shouldn't be doing, and you shouldn't be doing things that you can't be doing. This idea also, Leibniz's idea, was influenced later in the 20th century discussion about the effect of pop culture, which is often thought to be dangerous, as its ability to manipulate people through subliminal messages. I can kind of see that through social media now. We see a lot of fake news online, a lot of outlets that are providing these fake stories. It's quite, you got to be very careful in what you see and what you look, because things you read may not be actually true. And you got to just be careful overall when you go on there. But anyways, moving on to Williams. So Williams responded that he believed that the culture consisted of three categories: process of perfection, documentary record, and a particular way of life. So we're going to be breaking down the third one, particular way of life. The third argument encouraged three new ways of thinking about new culture. The first one was as a particular way of life as it was actually lived by the people. So rather than saying how you're supposed to live, you will live how you live. Like you can only have values and expressions through ways that you've lived, ways that you've communicated and learned through the culture and the society you've grown up with. The second one as an expression of meanings and values. So compared that to sports, we see a lot of athletes nowadays expressing their meanings and values through sports and their pro athleticism. We see Stephen Curry writing expressions through his shoes. So he'll write messages on his shoes that'll help him, express how he feels about society and as a culture. Maybe express some values that he sees. Maybe he sees, Black people not getting enough recognition, something along the lines of that. As well as, in the Pro NFL, we see players kneeling before the national anthem in protest of the culture and expressions they believe that they perceive that they want to express to the world. So, moving on to the last one, culture analysis should uncover those expressed. So using culture analysis to uncover these ways of expressing meanings and values in a culture. That was his argument. He was a part of a group of culturists, as they call it, that argued that Leibniz's idea was wrong and that there was other ways of thinking about culture. And so moving on to our second key perspective, we'll be looking at Saussur's argument. Ferdinand de Saussure, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, a Swiss linguist. He was born in 1857 and died in 1913. So he said to have argued that that language comprised of signs which themselves are comprised of signifier and a signified. So signifier would be a visual image of the word basketball, and the signified would be an actual physical basketball. So the signifier is what it's saying, and the signifier is what it is in context. So the meaning is created by the relations of signs to other signs. That's a synetematic, and by the conventions of language systems, paradigmatic. So by the sign that you see, basketball, 60 miles an hour, the sign, it then translate into a physical action or picture, or it physically is presented. So, if it says 60 kilometers an hour, you go 60 kilometers an hour. If there's a soccer ball, you're going to think of soccer ball, you're going to think of the game of soccer, you're going to think of your favorite athlete. It all stems from this construct. Moreover, on that, Saussure believed that language does not describe reality; it constructs it. So with that, I mean, you aren't restricted by language. A language can construct you. What's more mightier, the sword or the pen? I mean, most would say nowadays the pen is more mightier because if you write things that allow you to be yourself, you're going to be able to express yourself at another level, and that's going to create a reality for you. So you construct your own reality. Language does not. And moving on to our last topic, our last key perspective, we'll be talking about Karl Marx and Marxism. So Marx was a philosopher, an economist. He was an historian, a political theorist, a sociologist, a journalist, and a revolutionary socialist. There's a lot of things. He was a pretty influential man. He was born in 1818 and passed away in 1883. And his main argument was, he argued that history represents an ongoing class struggle characterized by the mode of production. So if you, in today's society, work at Tim Hortons as a coffee maker or at Subway as a Subway artist, you are at the lowest form of production. You are making food for people that have higher jobs than you. It's a scale of hierarchy. You're working for a mega corporation that brings in billions of dollars each year. I mean, your mode of production is low. That statues you as a lower class citizen or participant or whatever you want to call it. He said the means of production vary from each century. I mean, in the early 20th century, Industrial Revolution kicked in, and you saw a lot of means of production for railways, cars, automobiles, just the development of the cities. You saw the means of production were there. They meant that if you weren't in the steel business, you were in the car business. If you weren't in the car business, you weren't in the shipping business. Whatever, you kind of see what I'm saying. But anyways, dominant class. He argued that the dominant class in society represents its interest as a common interest. So we see that today in sports. We see that with we see these leagues that have been formed, these hierarchy leagues, these top-of-the-line leagues, and their owners. We see these billion-dollar owners that only want to make money. I mean, they do respect the sport and they have a passion for it, but at the end of the day, it's a business. They need to be making money. So they sell tickets to the lower class. They offer, great deals on box seats, stuff like that. Their means of production is to sell tickets to the lower class. And that's kind of the culture view we see nowadays. We see sports has created this view now that we have to buy tickets. We have to buy tickets and see these sports events because it's going to be so great. It's going to be amazing. And that's what these superstructures want us to see. That's what these high hierarchy people want us to do. They want us, so the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. It's basically what I'm trying to say. Yeah, so the base is kind of considered the bottom of the barrel life. You're stuck down there, and superstructure is the formalist, as the society that is above you, essentially. So the base is the base of everything that keeps the superstructure up. But anyways, that is my last topic, and I hope you enjoyed the video, and I look forward to being, I look forward to having a great semester. Thank you.